Yeah, boy, here we go. I hope y'all enjoy. Get ready. Get ready. Alright, how's everybody doing today? Or this evening? Back again with another video for you guys and gals. And tonight, what I have for everyone is my full review of the Moto G6. Now, maybe you're new to the channel or you're returning, but typically how my process goes is I shoot my unboxing and first impressions video, then my full review process starts. Once I feel like I got a handle on everything I want to talk about and cover with you guys, then it's full review time. So without further ado, let's get into this full review. And real quickly before we talk about the device, the first thing I want to talk about, as I said I would, is I want to go over the screen protector and the case. And really guys, this is one of the best combinations that I've found for the Moto G6 in general. Now, the screen protector, as you can see, offers full protection with all of the proper cutouts for your device. So you have all your cutouts for your camera, your proximity and light sensors, your display sensor, your flash, speaker grill, fingerprint sensor, microphone, so on and so forth, and you got maximum protection. Really good stuff. And it still offers maximum sensitivity and maximum functionality. So you can see everything still works and works without issue. So really solid fingerprint sensor and at a great price. I picked up this screen protector for a little bit over $7, one of the best pickups that I've gotten yet. Now, let's talk about the case. And this case is another one. Now, it offers maximum protection, even covers up the buttons, but at the same time, it still offers a clicky and responsive feedback for all of my buttons. And it does the most important thing, which is add a lot of grip to a very slippery device, but it also adds maximum protection for my camera sensor because it adds a nice raised lip there. So I don't have to worry when I put my camera face down or flat down as getting scratched up. Same thing can be said for the front with the combination of the screen protector and the little bit of a raised lip. Maximum protection there. So don't have to worry about that. So the case is top notch. Now talking about the downsides with the case, you guys can see it picked up a lot of dust. It does pick up a lot of fingerprints as well. So that is what it is. Same thing for the screen protector. It is what it is. And the raised portion of the case, I would just like it to have a little bit more of a raised level just for that added security and protection. But for what it is really, really good. And again, the case I picked up for a little bit over $7 as well. Putting the case and the screen protector together, that came to about $15 at checkout. Again, I purchased all of this stuff via Amazon. So real quickly, can I recommend this case and this screen protector for the Moto G6 or the G6 Play? Because it's technically the same same display size and same cutouts. The only difference is you the fingerprint sensor, you probably won't have access to that on the G6 Play. But can I recommend this case for the Moto G6 and this screen protector for the Moto G6? I'd have to say yes. Now moving on, let's talk about the device. So now the first thing that I want to talk about on this device, give me a second, I think I hear my... Alright, sorry about that guys. Had to take a real quick phone call and then do some things. So sorry you're going to see a slight break in the video. But as I was saying, getting into the overall build quality and design, after we cover the case and the screen protector. And for the rest of this video, I'm just going to go ahead and leave the case on because this bad boy is a slippery beast. But that doesn't change my opinion about the rest of the device. So jumping into the build quality and the design of the device, I have to say this is where Motorola did a great job. Talking about the build quality on this guy is top notch. There's no rattling or creaking of any kind, and all of my buttons still have a nice clicky and responsive feedback to them, whether I have the case on or not. So the overall build quality on this guy is top notch. Now, talking about the design, this was the year where Motorola decided that their design needed a refresh. So gone is the grippy plastic and glass. Gone is the metal back and glass. Now they've upgraded to a more modern design in the glass on glass. So right here we have Gorilla Glass on the back and Gorilla Glass on the front. And adding to the more updated design elements, we have an 18:9 1080p display, which is a really, really nice touch. Other than that, it's pretty much standard now. Glass on glass, metal mid-frame, all that good stuff is here. And before I forget, they also incorporated a USB Type-C port, yes, while maintaining the 3.5mm headphone jack. Yes, come on, big boys. If Motorola could do it and keep your headphone jack, how come y'all gotta get rid of that? Don't make no sense. Do you really have to? Do you? No. But really, really nice design choices here. And they brought the narrower and kept the fingerprint sensor on the front. So really, really nice touch. Really, really good design overall. There's only one gripe that I have with the design on this device, and that is the fact that they did not incorporate wireless charging into their device. All they really managed to do was make their device a slippery beast. And for the competitors that this device is set up to go against, they needed that one feature that was going to put them head and shoulders over the rest. And I feel like wireless charging would have did that for them. So the fact that they did not include it, that's kind of a big negative to me. But it is what it is. Other than that, the overall build quality and design on this device is top notch. Up next, let's dive a little bit deeper into this display. So up front, dead center here, we have a 5.7-inch IPS LCD display. In particular, this display has a resolution of 2160 by 1080p and a screen density of 424 pixels per inch. So diving in, putting all the technical stuff aside, in terms of day-to-day usage with this display, I have to say it's top notch. Let me clear all of these notifications because they're going to distract me. So let's hit clear all. Now, jumping back on, talking about the display, it is top notch. In day-to-day usage, I haven't had any issues with the display, okay? Typically, when I take it outdoors, I max it at 50%. There's no need to put this display at 100%, at least in my opinion, when I go outdoors. When I'm doing stuff around the house and I'm in the house, I keep this guy at about 10% brightness, which is really, really good, and it performs extremely well. So in terms of the display, Motorola, you guys did a great job. Kudos. Now, moving on, let's roll up the sleeves and go in deep. The next thing I want to talk about with you guys and gals is the hardware and the software in this guy. Now, talking about the overall hardware. Hardware-wise, on the front, we have an 8-megapixel sensor camera, which is capable of recording 1080p videos at 30 frames per second max, and doing 720p 120 frames per second slow motion. Okay? Also across the top, continuing on, we have our receiver grill, which also doubles as our speaker grill, our light and proximity and display sensors, and our LED flash. That's right, y'all. We got front-facing flash. Good stuff. Now, moving down, we have that 5.7-inch IPS LCD display. And then at the bottom, we have our capacitive fingerprint sensor and a microphone. So, good stuff. We also have the micro USB Type-C, or USB Type-C. I don't know why I put those together. And our headphone jack. So, really, really nice hardware features on this guy. Flipping it over to the rear. Okay. We have more microphones and dual rear-facing cameras. This setup in particular is one 12 megapixel primary sensor and one 5 megapixel depth sensor. The primary sensor is capable of recording videos up to 1080p at 60 frames per second max and doing 720p 120 frames per second slow motion, and a bunch of other features that we're going to get into when we talk about the cameras. And then we have the depth 5 megapixel sensor camera right next to that, and our LED flash, microphone, and we also have a noise canceling microphone up top. That's all we really got going on the back. Diving in deep further, dive with me. Close your eyes, dive with me. We have on this guy 3 gigs of RAM and 32 gigs of onboard storage. There is another variant of this device with 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of onboard storage, but it is what it is. This is all I can get my hands on for right now. Other than that, we have a 3000 milliamp hour battery in this guy, and we have the micro SD card support. And in particular, you can use your micro SD card as internal adaptable storage. So that's a really, really nice touch. The chipset on this guy is the Snapdragon 450 octa-core processor and the Adreno 506 GPU. Alright, that pretty much does it for the hardware, and we support turbocharging on this guy, which is really, really fast. Now, let's get into talking about their software, okay? Now, I am a big Motorola advocate specifically for their software. I really like Motorola's software approach. Pretty much, it's a stock build of Android with some useful features thrown in. So let's take some time and go over them features. So in particular, if you dive into the Moto app, this is where we get into the meat and potatoes of the features that Motorola thought it was important to include. So let me scoot this closer and let's get some focus. So starting from top to bottom, we have the Moto key, and pretty much what the Moto key does is you sign into all your apps and websites, and it stores your passwords. And if you need to re-sign into all your apps and websites, all you have to do is tap your fingerprint sensor and you're good to go. I had issues with it, but if you can get it to work, it is pretty good. I did get it to work once or twice, and then I ran into some issues, but it wasn't a big problem for me because I just disabled it and went back to using Google. Google for the win. Now, moving on, we got the section that was Motorola's claim to fame for some years. We got the Moto Actions section, okay? And in particular, they added the 3-finger screenshot this year, which is good stuff. So all you really have to do a 3-finger screenshot is tap them 3 fingers to the screen and hold like that. Snap a screenshot. Good stuff. So it looks a little bit more complicated because I'm trying to do it from behind the camera, but it really is super easy and super convenient. And another thing I like about Motorola and their feature implementation is they have full in-depth tutorials that walk you through step by step on how to do all of the features that they included. Another big favorite of mine and something that I use on a daily basis is the one button nav. And pretty much what the one button nav does is, as it says, it pretty much gets rid of your, let me scoot this back some. it gets rid of your on-screen keys and replaces all of that functionality with your fingerprint sensor. So if I want to go back, I swipe to the left. It takes me back. If I want to bring up my recent apps, I swipe to the right. Bring up my recent apps. If I want to go home, I tap home. Take me home. If I want to turn off the screen, because I was just checking my notifications real quick, just screen go bye-bye. Then turn it back on. Alright? If I want to pull up Google now, because I got something I need to ask, I need to find out something, I could use the voice command, or I could just press and hold. Google Now. And pretty much that is what the one button nav does. And that is probably one of the most useful features that Motorola has included in this guide. Good stuff. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. Now, if you don't like the traditional Android approach, you can swap the actions of the fingerprint sensor. So out of the box, swiping right is recent apps, swiping left is back. But you can swap it to where it goes vice versa. So you can make right back and left recent apps. So it really is a nice feature, and it gives you, you can set it up to your heart's content. But for the purposes of this video, we're going to go back to on-screen keys. Next is two of my favorite included features. Let me turn off the screen for this. We have the chop for the flashlight and the twist for the camera, and it doesn't get any easier than this. Double chop, flashlight, double chop, off, twist, camera. Now, if you want to take a selfie, twist again, right to the selfie camera. You want to go back, twist, take you back to the back. And that works from any screen, so it's a really, really nice touch. Another feature that Motorola decided to throw in, keeping up with the times, is that their face unlock. So let me slide y'all this way. Slide this way for me real quick. And let me line this up with my face. And we're going to try and get a good demo for you guys. So you can set it up one or two ways. You can set it up the traditional way, where it takes you to the lock screen, scans your face, and then you got to swipe up to unlock. But who wants to be traditional Apple? Who wants to do that? You can set it up the fast way, to where it scans your face and we're in business. So check this out. Boom! Did you see that? Let me try that one more time. One more time. We in there. Really nice feature that Motorola included. Really good stuff. Let me bring y'all back around. Ride with me real quick. Ride with me. Go back focused. Let's do this. Now let's keep it moving. So, another feature that Motorola included that I don't really like too much is the swipe to shrink the screen. And it's a good feature, but I don't like Motorola's implementation, because you have to do a diagonal swipe from the center to the edge of the screen. And this is a big device. So you have to press and hold and swipe to the edge. Kind of like that. And it never really works on the first try. You really just gotta keep going till you get it. And there we go. So it does work. It takes a little while to get it down. They actually, when they demo it for you, they do it with a thumb swipe. But I don't know anybody that could do a thumb swipe from the middle of this big ass device to the edge and activate this. And I've had this device for a while, and I still can't activate it with my thumb. So I don't like the implementation, but it is a nice feature. And if you want to use your device one-handed, but you still want a big device, hey, you might have to use it sometimes. And you just tap anywhere outside to go back to full screen. So there you have it. Good feature. Don't like it too much, but it is there. And now we're getting into our standard affair. Okay, so, got your pickup to stop ringing. Don't use that. We got our flip over to activate Do Not Disturb. It's there. Don't use that. Now, diving in, we got another feature that Motorola is famous for. We have that young Moto display, kids. So how the Moto display works, you get a notification, you swipe your hand across the screen, it lights up and tells you that need to know information. And also, if I get something like a text message, I can act on it straight from here. Just touch it, swipe up to reply, swipe down to dismiss, swipe to unlock. So really, really nice feature, and I like that Moto included that, and they continue to improve on that. Really good stuff. They also added attentive display. So with that on, if the camera senses that you're looking at it, it won't dim or turn off the display. So that's a really nice touch there. And then we have the Moto display, and you can configure what notifications get seen on that display. And then down below, we have an oldie but goodie, but it's kind of outdated. We have that Moto voice. Now, when I say oldie but goodie, if you know anybody that had a traditional Moto X device or had a Moto X Pure Edition for a long time, the Moto X's or the Moto X Pure Edition were heralded as having some of the best speech recognition and voice commands in any Android device. Now, that's pretty much went by the wayside because Google has gotten so good at voice commands and voice recognition that it's almost scary. But it's still here, and it's here to use if you want to try it. Now, I found that in my testing, it's just not as reliable as Google, and it can't do as much as Google can. And it's implemented a little bit differently than the Moto X Pure Edition because the Moto X Pure Edition backbone to Google. This one kind of has some issues and some permissions you have to set up, and it's just not as reliable. But it's there. Another feature I don't use. That pretty much goes over all of the features that Motorola included in this device. And as I said, they're more conveniences as, than they are gimmicks. And once you start using them and you switch to a different device, you'll be hard pressed to figure out what you're going to do without them. So it is what it is. Other than that, again, we're running a pretty much stock build of Android as I accidentally turn on the camera like a noob. So if I jump into settings and we jump into the updates tab, you guys can see that we are indeed running Android 8.0 Oreo, and we are on the March 1st security patch. Why am I going out of focus? Tap up, son. Tap up. Get in there. Get in there. There we go. So you can see we're on Android 8.0 and we got the March 1st security patch. Not the latest and greatest, but it is what it is. Now, talking about the software from a day-to-day performance standpoint, I have to say that it's really, really good, and I've run into little or no issues. The only issues being that I get that occasional app slowdown and hiccup with a bunch of apps open in the background. And at least when I'm playing games for extended periods, the device tends to get a little warm and the game starts to hiccup. Anything over 20 minutes, the device gets a little warm and the game starts to hiccup. Alright? But other than that, the overall software on this device is extremely good. Alright? So kudos for the software. Kudos for the hardware. Let's keep it moving. Up next now, let's talk about the Wi-Fi in this guy. And in terms of Wi-Fi, this guy has Wi-Fi 802.11, BGNN, and AC. And that's just a fancy way of saying this guy has support for the 2.4 gigahertz band and the 5 gigahertz band Wi-Fi. As long as you have a router that supports those bands, you should be good to go. But that's enough talk. I just want to pull up a YouTube video now. And this YouTube video will double as a Wi-Fi performance test and a speaker test. So let me put this down to 75% real quick. So that's about 75 right there. So we're going to test it at 75. Then we're going to test it at 100. I'm going to scrub through the video. I'm going to show you the max resolution of display. Then we're going to keep it moving. So I'm going to stop talking now and you guys enjoy the rest of this clip. Or the rest of this test, not a clip. Are y'all ready to crank it up? Let's go. 100%. Ooh, that be fire. Y'all want to scrub? Let's scrub. Too far? Let's go back. Okay, real quick Wi-Fi test, real quick speaker test, good stuff. So y'all can see the Wi-Fi performs really, really good, and the speakers on this guy are crisp, clear, and very loud. And real quick shout out to no copyright trap music. If you're looking for some, free music to feature in your videos, or you're an up-and-coming artist and you want somewhere to promote your platform, non-copyrighted trap music is one of the best, and they feature some of my favorite producers of music beats. Some really great stuff. Just had to stop to give them a shout out, even though I just felt like giving them a shout out. Let's keep it moving, y'all. Up next now, the next thing I want to talk about with you guys is the overall LTE bands and GSM bands supported in this guy. And pretty much, y'all, all Motorola did is like, yo, do we have globally unlocked devices? Oh, we do? They run on everybody? Do we want to change that this year? No, we don't? Okay, pick up the kitchen sink, drop it in. All right, you want to do that? Give them support for everybody? Yeah, why not? At no additional cost. Alright, boom. So this device right here has LTE and band support for all of the major carriers in the United States, all of the GSM carriers, Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile, AT&T, you name it, it's gonna work. Drop your SIM in, plug and play, we rolling like nobody business. And if you go overseas, guess what? It still got you covered. So you got all your European bands, you got your Brazilian bands, you got all of your US bands here. Let me show you. And we are good. So let me pull this drop down real quick. And bam, there go all of your bands. Boom, baby. Let me zoom in a little bit. And there you have it. All of your LTE bands, all of your GSM bands, all of your CDMA and your WCDMA bands, HSPA Plus, everything is in this guy. So in terms of LTE band support, you should be good to go. And in particular, oops, zoomed in too far. We don't want none of that mess. In particular, I've tested this device on T-Mobile and Straight Talk. And my Straight Talk SIM is backboned on Verizon's network. So it is a Verizon SIM. And I can tell you guys, it worked without issue. Okay? So, regardless of what carrier you have, you should be good to go. Let's keep it moving. Okay? Up next now, the next thing I want to talk about with you guys is the overall Bluetooth supported in this guy. So let me pull it up real quick. Now, in particular, this device supports Bluetooth 4.2 functionality in it. And before y'all start saying, what? It's not the latest and greatest. Don't worry. It's still very good. Chill out. You don't need the latest and greatest everything. Now, I understand it's not the latest and greatest, but it works like a champ. And I've tested this Bluetooth in this device with pretty much everything. Speakers, headphones, other phones, more speakers, everything. And it works. And it works without fail. Dang, is my TV showing up on there? Even TVs, y'all. It works. So, in terms of Bluetooth support, it's going to work and you're not going to have any issues. Okay? Moving on. Let's talk about one of my primary essential parts of a device next. Let's get into that young GPS. And I'm very happy to report to you guys that the overall GPS on this guy, I was putting in some more battery stats earlier. The overall GPS on this guy is top notch. This is one of my most recent tests. And I gotta tell you guys, the GPS on here locked on within about 1 to 2 seconds, and I never really lost it. And anything I did that took advantage of the GPS worked without issues. So turn by turn navigation and so on and so forth worked without issues. So if you're a GPS dependent junkie like myself, because I can't do anything without my GPS, I can't go anywhere without my GPS. If you're like me, you should be good to go. Solid. Now, moving on, let's get into another core component of the device that really needs to be there to make a good device a great device. Let's talk about the overall call quality and speaker call quality on the Moto G6. And again, this is where I have to say Motorola did a great job. Whether it be receiver calls through the built-in receiver or speaker calls, I had no issues. It really came down to carrier coverage and carrier support. Had some issues with T-Mobile's coverage. Perfect with Straight Talk Verizon, but in terms of the overall phone hardware itself, didn't have any issues. Receiver calls were very loud, crisp, and clear, and speaker calls were very loud. They lacked a little bit of clarity, but they were still very loud throughout. So it was really, really good. And that's one of the primary parts that needs to be there for any phone in general, whether it's a smartphone or not. At the end of the day, these are phones and you need to be able to take good phone calls. Alright? So really good stuff in that respect. Now, moving on, let's talk about them cameras and the camera interface. Let's dive deep. Strap on your gloves again. We going in. So, talking about the camera interface and the cameras, let me reiterate one more time. We got an 8 megapixel camera on the front, capable of 1080p videos and 720p slow motion. We got 2 cameras on the rear, primary capable of recording up to 1080p 60 and 720p slow motion. The secondary is a 5 megapixel depth sensor. So let me reiterate that. Now let's jump into the camera interface. And this is where I have to say this is one of the most cleanest and straightforward camera interfaces that I've seen. And Motorola is known for having clean and very user-friendly and straightforward camera interfaces. So let's get deep. Jumping in, you could do that one of 2 ways. You can launch it just like I showed you, or you could twist to open the camera, and then you're greeted with your big shutter button, and you can switch to the front camera like so. How you doing, everybody? Or if you want to take a video, you can just as easily tap for the video or swipe over for the video. And one of the things that I really like about this is that it does not start taking video right away. LG, talking to y'all. You do not need to start taking video right away. You know how many angles I've messed up because LG wants their devices to start taking video right away. Let me line up my shot and push record. And I'm very happy to report that Motorola lets you do that. Good stuff. So you won't have to worry about accidentally recording stuff that you did not want to record, because you can switch to the video, line up your shot, and then record, which is good stuff. But jumping back to the cameras, we have pretty much a straightforward and clean interface. So if you want to get to your deep modes, you swipe all the way to the left, and you can see we have color spot, which is just a live representation. It lets you pick any color on your scene and gray out anything else. So let me just, can't do anything with my left hand. Show you real quick. So tapped into it, it's on, it says pick a color. Let's go with this red. So I tap the red and it grayed out everything else except for anything that it thinks has red in it. So you can see my TV stand is oak red table, so it kept parts of that in color. As far as the camera can see, it kept some of the black in color too, and you can see some of my dresser is red as well, so it kept that in color, grayed out everything else. Really cool feature. It works pretty good. Then we got our standard panorama there. We got our portrait mode. Y'all know how that works, and it's really good as well. We got our face filters. I guess if you like those, they're there. Then down below, we got our video in-depth modes. So we got our 720p, 120 frames per second slow motion. We got our time lapse, and we got more face filters. Nasty. Now, if you want to dive deeper and change stuff, you hit the little gear icon in the upper right hand corner, and this is where you can see the meat and potatoes of the camera app. So we got shutter sound controls, we got quick capture controls, so pretty much that just lets you twist to open the camera and you in business. Now you can turn that off and on. We got location storage controls for your photos and your videos, and then you can see in terms of photos, you can control those resolutions as well. So this guy maxes out at 13 megapixels. Why are you out of focus? There you go. This guy maxes out. You're still out of focus. Dang it, LG. Come on. Now, but you can see this guy maxes out at 13 megapixels, but to take it, 13, maxes out at 12 megapixels. But to take advantage of all 12 megapixels, you guys and gals are going to be stuck shooting in that 4:3 letterboxy aspect ratio. If you want to shoot in the 16:9 goodness, you're going to have to take a megapixel hit down to 9.4 megapixels. Or if you want to shoot in that new school stuff, 18:9 aspect ratio, you got to take an even further megapixel hit down to 7.4 megapixels. But it is what it is. You play with what you play with, and you find what works for you. So let's get out of that. And if I go down here, you see we still have our traditional tap anywhere to capture. That was a really good feature. I love that on my Moto Xperia Edition. So it's good to see that they kept that. We got our assistive grid lines. So if you really want to line up your shot, that's there to help you out. And then we have our video resolutions. So you guys can see right now it's set on 1080p 30. But if I tap in, it maxes out at 1080p 60 video recording. And so you have, let me get back in here one more time. You got 480p 30, you got 720p 30, 1080p 30, and 1080p 60 frames per second video. That's all she's got, Captain, and that's 720p slow motion. And then if we swipe further down, you have your object recognition and your landmark recognition, which I tried, but they don't work well. But it's good to see them here. If you get them to work, you get them to work. If you don't, then you don't. It is what it is. Now, moving on. The next thing I want to cover with you guys is the front-facing camera. Let me fix something real quick. There we go. The front-facing camera. Sorry, something popped up. I was trying to get rid of it. It's distracting me. I get distracted easy, y'all. You just don't know. But let's jump to the front here. And the front-facing camera is similar to the rear, except for you lose a little bit of features, but you gain a group selfie mode. You still have your slow motion, your time lapse, and your face filters. But yeah. And if you want to dive deeper, hit that little gear there. I'm trying to have a light touch, and you can see this guy maxes out at 8 megapixels, but again, you're stuck in that 4:3 aspect ratio. You still have the tap anywhere to capture, and you can see in terms of the video, we max out at 1080p 30. Now, if you want to shoot in the 18:9 or the 16:9, you're gonna have to take megapixel hits there to 6 megapixels for the 16:9 and 5.3 megapixels for the 18:9. Or if you want to take full advantage of all the megapixels, deal with the letterboxes, y'all. And then again, we got the landmark recognition. Now, one thing I do want to point out here is that not only do you have Pro mode for your front-facing cameras, along with all your regular things across the top. So you got HDR, flash, timer, you got auto mode, you got beauty mode, which you should not use. But not only do you have that stuff, but you do have the ability to take manual photos. And this works on the front-facing camera, as y'all see here, as well as, if I jump back, the rear-facing camera. So that's really good to see. Now, the only bummer to this is it only works with the photos. It would have been really nice if Motorola found a way to implement this on the videos as well. Woo! That would have put this over the top. Either that or wireless charging would have put this over the top. But it is what it is. You only have Pro mode for your photos. It is what it is. Now, in the interest of speed, I'm not going to go over the photo samples here. But what I did do is put together a nice little pic slideshow. I'll leave the link to that video down below in the video description, as well as links to all the video samples down below in the video description as well. But that's enough on the camera interface. Overall though, talking about the cameras as a whole, I have to say this device, when it comes to the cameras, is top notch. And yes, I know doesn't shoot 4K, doesn't have some type of fancy super duper slowdown feature, but it covers the bare essentials, and it covers the bare essentials extremely well. So the cameras on this are top notch, and all you really have to remember is as long as you have enough light to cover your scene, you should be good to go. Now, moving on, the next thing I want to talk about with you guys is the gaming on this guy. And pretty much, guys, if you play casual games, you're not going to have any issues. If you get into the more graphic intensive titles, then you're going to have some heating issues, and you're going to have a lot of slowdown and hiccups. And that was kind of weird because the most graphically intensive game I play is Asphalt 8, and I got those issues. Okay? Or if you play games for extended periods, you're going to get those issues. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe it's a chipset problem. Maybe it's a software problem. But they need to get that sorted out. But in terms of the games, your boy is a casual gamer, light gamer, and they work pretty good. Pretty good. So gaming, light games, not a problem. Heavier games might have an issue. Alright. Moving on now, let's get into those benchmarks. But before I dive in, I just wanted to ask you guys, do you guys still care about benchmarks? Me, myself, not so much. And I always said that the benchmarks themselves mean absolutely nothing. What really mattered at the end of the day was the overall combination of hardware and software, which equated to a good and fluid user experience, which a lot of budget devices have figured out nowadays. So that's why benchmarks don't mean as much to me as they used to. But I still understand it's still pretty cool to see the raw performance numbers. But I just wanted to ask y'all, do y'all really still care about the benchmarks, or can I take it out? So please leave me a comment down below in the comments area. Yes, keep them in because I like seeing the raw performance data, or hashtag no, they gotta go. Leave that down below in the comments, and that'll decide whether I keep them in or take them out. Now, if you don't comment, then I'll leave them in. If you do comment, I'll take them out. It's up to y'all. So, just wanted to say that little piece before we dive in. Now, let's dive in. Now, Starting off with Geekbench 4, you guys can see here for the single core scores, it scored a 742, which is comparable to last year's Moto G6 Plus model, which is the only model we got in the States. It's pretty comparable. And you can see where we do see some improvements is in the multi-core score. It scored a 3,875, which is not bad, but it's pretty good when you consider the chipset in this guy. Swiping over, we got the 3D Mark Ice Storm Unlimited test, and you guys can see it scored something that's not really good, but it's decent. It scored a 12,698, which is decent. Moving on, you can see this is the Antutu benchmark scores, and it kind of fluctuated between 63,000 and 70,000, but this was the last one I took, and you can see it scored a 65,885. It is what it is. Now moving on, this is the Disco Mark multitasking benchmark, and pretty much what this does is you pick all the apps that you wanted to cycle through. It cycles through all those apps and gives you an average speed that the phone took to get through all those apps. And then it goes a step further and it tells you how long the phone took to open each individual app. So you know what your boy had to do. I had to load up all the apps that I use on a daily basis, which is about 21, maybe 24, and put this benchmark to the test. And I'm very happy to report the Moto G6 did a great job. It scored a time of older devices can't get nowhere close to that. I think the LG G6 got 18 seconds. The Moto X Pure Edition got 37 seconds. So that's really, really good. That's right on par with the, I think the Moto E4 got that as well. And the Moto G6 Plus got something similar to that as well. So that's really, really good. That puts it on par with stuff that it's supposed to be on par with. But I did see a problem with this. After about 7 or so apps, I started to see a lot of app refreshes. So that tells me this configuration here is not really optimized to hold a lot of apps in the background. So if you're a heavy user like myself, you better be prepared to see a lot of app refreshes. If not, as long as you stick to about 7 to 14 apps, you shouldn't see as many app refreshes. But once you go over about 7 apps open, you're gonna start to see them, boy. And I saw a lot every time I ran this benchmark, and I ran this benchmark like 3 to 5 times. So yeah, all right, let's move on. Now moving on, this is a little bit of an older benchmark that's not even available on the Play Store anymore, but I still managed to find it, and I like to run it because I like to compare the newer devices to the older devices that used to run on this benchmark. So this is the Volemo Metal test, and it pretty much just cycles all your hardware through a bunch of tests and comes back with an average score for you guys. So you can see the Moto G6 scored pretty much bottom of the pack with a score of 919, which is not good, but it is what it is. Now jumping over, this is the Volemo multi-core test, and you can see it did a much better job here, but it still scored bottom of the pack with a 1,460. It is what it is. Alright, that pretty much covers the benchmarks, guys and gals, and now let's keep it moving. We're almost finished. Now we're getting into one of my next essential parts. And this is where we talk about the battery life and the overall charge times. So let me pull up my stats here. Alrighty. Boom. Now first, before we dive in, I want to talk to you guys about one of the ways that I verify if a device has fast charging or not. So this is the Ampere charging app, and pretty much this just pretty much measures what your device can pull off of the charger. And I found that in my usage with this app, as long as your device can pull down 1800 milliamps or more, you pretty much have fast charging. And as you guys can see, this guy definitely has fast charging because it topped out at about 2360 milliamps, which puts it well over the fast charging or turbocharging mark. So it's really, really good to see that. Now, moving on, let's get into these battery stats. One thing I want you guys to keep in mind before I dive deep and let y'all know a little bit about my usage is that I am a heavy user. Anything that can be done with my smartphone, I do it with my smartphone. I dread typing. Back in school, in high school, in college, my saving grace was voice dictation. All I had to do after I dictated my papers was go back and proofread and make sure I got everything properly set up. Because I dread typing. I am an extremely slow typer. And a lot of the stuff that I cannot do or do badly physically, I make up for with a lot of features on my smartphones. So I am a really slow texter. To make up for that, I dictate a lot of my text. So much so, I get on my family's nerves at times, but it is what it is. And so on and so forth. So a lot of this stuff that I have problems doing or that my disabilities cause problems for me to do, I make up for that with a lot of features on my smartphone. So as a result, I am a heavy user. Okay? And on top of that, I use a lot of stuff. I stream a lot of movies and music. I take a lot of photos and videos. I'm addicted to YouTube like nobody's business, and Netflix, and Hulu, and Amazon Prime Video. If it can stream a movie or a TV show, I'm probably addicted to it, because I detest commercials with a passion. So any way I can get around them, best believe I'm doing it. That being said, I still have to suffer through sometimes if I want to see basketball games, football games, soccer, so on and so forth. I really like cars. Really bad driver. Well, bad by New York standards. By Florida standards, I'm a professional. As for everybody else, I can't tell you. I plead the fifth. But moving on, talking about my battery stats and my day-to-day usage, this is where I can report that the Moto G6 is really good when it comes to overall battery life. In general, I was easily able to make it to the end of the day, and sometimes I made it to a half day depending on how I use the device, and that's pretty good when you consider my usage style. And on average, I was getting anywhere from about 7 hours of screen on time to almost 13 hours of screen on time. A little bit over 13 if I pushed it, so that's really good. So let's dive into some of these shots here. And let me zoom in so y'all can see a little bit. And that's too far. Boom. There we go. Let me bring this closer. And there we go. You can kind of see it. So this one right here was a particularly heavy day. And you guys can see I easily got through the day with 10 hours of usage. And I got 10 hours and 7 minutes of screen on time. And then right here, this was an extremely heavy day. And more so heavy because I was doing a lot of GPS navigation and a lot of camera and photo video samples, and I still had to squeeze YouTube in there, as you can see. So I got 7.5 hours of usage, and I got about 5 hours of screen on time. So really savage day there. Now moving on, this was a little bit of a heavier day again, and you can see I easily got through the day, and I got 12.5 hours of usage time, again with 10 hours of screen on time. So really good stuff. And this pretty much continues. So you can see just about 13 hours of usage, 10 hours of screen on time. Again, 15 hours of usage, a little bit more laid back day, but I still went heavy on the gaming. So still got 5 hours of screen on time. So as you can see, so on and so forth, 10 hours of usage, 8 hours of screen on time. And it pretty much continues. 10 hours of usage, 8 hours of screen on time, so on and so forth. 11 hours of usage, 8 hours of screen on time, 22 hours of usage, 6 hours of screen on time. This was a light day, and it continues. But now let's talk about the charge times. Okay, now when we talk about the charge times, I'm very happy to report the Moto G6 charges extremely fast. Now, my particular testing, I tested 10% to 100% 5 times. I tested 15% to 100% 5 times. I tested 20% to 100% 3 times. I tested 10% to 90% twice, 10% to 80% twice, 20% to 80% once, and 15% to 70% once. And I have to say, if you're not charging to 100, you're gonna top up really, really quickly. I think 10% to 80% took me about 45 minutes. Okay, if you are topping up to 100%, it's gonna take you a little bit longer. Now, on average, I found that it took anywhere from about an hour and a half to an hour and 50 minutes to get me back to full. Okay. If I was charging to like 80, it took me about 45 minutes to about 55 minutes. Okay. If I was charging to about 70, it took me about 35 to maybe 45 minutes. So on and so forth. So this guy charges extremely fast. Not as fast as this old school Motorola devices, but still fast by today's standards. So in terms of charge times, you guys should be good to go, and I didn't have any problems with it. Alright, so that pretty much covers the overall battery life and charge times of this guy, and now let's get ready to wrap it up. First off, I just want to say thank you to my subscribers, because we hit 900 subscribers today. I really, really appreciate you guys. And you know, without you guys commenting your constructive criticism, liking and sharing the videos, I never would have made it to 900 subscribers. We're not quite at the first milestone yet, but we're getting close. So I have to say, guys, keep up the great work. Keep challenging me, keep providing your constructive criticism, and I'm going to keep pumping out the content that you guys want to see, as well as I myself want to see. So thank you to all my subscribers and my followers. I really appreciate it. And the next one is 1,000 subs. So let's get busy, y'all. That being said, what I want to do now is talk to you guys about the overall price and give you guys my final thoughts and a recommendation or two. So, starting off with the price. Now, I picked this guy up via Amazon, and I did it through the Amazon payment program. Alright? And how the Amazon payment program works, for all of you new people, for Amazon Prime eligible customers, you're given the opportunity to make payments on a few select devices. So in particular, this popped up on the payment program. And you guys know I wrapped up my coverage on the Essential phone, which I also got through the payment program. So I figured, why not? So, that being said, at checkout, including taxes and the screen protector and the case, everything came up to a little bit over $75. And for the next 4 months, because I had to make my first payment and the taxes, for the next 4 months, I'll be making payments of $47 until this guy is paid off. So really, really good price there, and you guys can expect a bunch of follow-up videos as well as I work through this next payment program. Alright, that being said, if you don't want to use a payment program, or you're not eligible for the Amazon Prime payment program, and you want to pick up this guy at full retail price, ooh, bumpy cam, then you have a few options. Let me go back. We go wide now. We're done. I don't need to be super close. Wide up. Alright, so if you want to pick up this device at full retail, it's going to run you anywhere from $200 to $250. Now, $200 is what you get if you pick up some promotional deals from Motorola, or if you walk into your local Best Buy and you're willing to either add a new line with either any of the carriers, or you want to do an upgrade, then you'll get $50 off this device, bringing it down to $200, which is nice. But if you don't want to go through the carrier trouble or jump through the proverbial hoops, then you're stuck picking up this guy at either $235, which is what this retails for on Amazon and on eBay and a few other places, or you can pick it up from Best Buy directly or a few other stores, or Motorola directly for $250. Now, let's talk about that, because this is where I feel some type of way. Now, that's a decent price, but it puts the Moto G6 on a direct collision course with some of the hottest competitors out today. In particular, we have Huawei, which is trying to make its way back into the market after being screwed over by the government. Probably got demonetized for saying that. But guess what? I don't get paid by YouTube anyway. So it is what it is. So yeah. So you got Huawei trying to come back in. You got you got Xiaomi making some waves. And so yeah, these are the hottest two competitors that the Moto lineup has to compete with. You also have some Samsung budget devices, so on and so forth. Jesus been making waves in this market for a while. So you got a lot of direct competition that come up at below this price point or exactly on this price point. In particular, you have a bunch of Jesus devices. The Zenfone lineup falls right in here. You have the Huawei devices. You got the Huawei Mate SE, and you have the Huawei Honor 7X. And both of those devices come with 1 more gig of RAM and a bunch of other useful user features, like an IR blaster, bigger batteries, same good quality display, and arguably better build materials depending on preference. So that is why I say that if Motorola incorporated some feature to put them over the top, like wireless charging would have put them over the top, or the ability to get pro controls for your videos as well as your photos, that would have put you guys over the top. If they would have incorporated some feature like that, they would have been head and shoulders better than the competition. But because they didn't, I'm more inclined to say, get it if you want it, get it if you can afford it, but it's a really hard recommendation this time. And that's saying a lot, considering that I am an avid Motorola supporter. Okay? So that's my 2 cents on the Moto G6. Now, I just want to add that if you want to save a little bit of money and come in below the competition a little bit, okay, then you might want to consider going with the G6 Play. You get some downgrades in certain areas, but it's still a very solid device. In particular, you get a downgrade in the chipset to the Snapdragon 427 processor, which is a good processor. I featured that on multiple devices on the channel, so that's not an issue. You get a downgrade in the cameras from 2 cameras to 1 13 megapixel primary sensor, which is not an issue. You get your fingerprint sensor repositioned to the rear device, embedded in the Motorola logo, which some would say is probably a better design choice, but that's more personal preference, so it's not an issue. You still get the same high quality 5.7 inch 1080p display. You still get the same 3 gigs of RAM and 32 gigs of onboard storage. I don't remember if the G6 Play had USB Type-C or not, but you do get the additional 4,000 milliamp hour battery as opposed to the 3000 milliamp hour battery on the regular G6. Also, if you want to go above this, then you have the G6 Plus. And the G6 Plus runs anywhere from about 380 to about 400, pushing close to the 500 mark. And that kind of puts it in direct competition to the budget flagships like a OnePlus, like a LG G6 Plus, like a Moto Z3 Play, so on and so forth. A few Sony devices are now available at the $500 mark, like the old school XC Premium, $500, so on and so forth. So that device lines up directly with the budget flagships. So I like what Motorola's doing there because they covered all of their aspects. They covered the entry level at $80 to $212. They covered the mid-range segment with this one, with the $235 to $250, and they covered the budget to flagship segment with the G6 Plus. So I like what they're doing here, and they still have a regular flagship getting ready to drop in the Z line, in the Z3 Play. So they covered all their bases. But at least in this regard, talking about this phone, I feel like they could have done a little bit more. Alright, so that was my 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 cents, like my 25 cents on this device. So that has been my full review of the Moto G6. Now, if you guys and gals found this video helpful or entertaining in any way, shape, or form, or you're interested in this or you liked it, please help your boy out and give the video a thumbs up. That really does help me out. You don't know how much. If you guys want to see more raw, uncut content like this, because you never really know what's going to happen when I push record, please feel free to hit the subscribe button down below and click off the notification bell icon right next to it. Whoo, this one got long. And as always, if this video piqued your interest and you're interested in picking this device up, all links to where to purchase this device, as well as the case and the screen protector and the micro SD card, or a recommended micro SD card, will all be located down below in the video description, as well as links to the photo samples video and all the video samples that I've taken with this device. So down below in the video description should truly be like a one-stop shop for you guys and gals, and you should be good to go. That being said, if you guys and gals know anyone out there looking for the best performing devices and products at the cheapest possible prices, please show them my channel, because I'm doing this for everyone, because we all deserve the best. Alright everyone, I hope everyone has a good evening, and I will catch you guys and gals in my next video. Peace.